But the Quran is still here, and we just found out something in the 1970s. An amazing thing. For a long time, centuries, not just the Christians, but even some of the Jews, people have been arguing about Moses, alayhi salam. Did he really even exist, or was he just somebody that they made the story up about? Big-time scholars of the Bible have actually said that this is just a nice story. There really wasn't anybody named Moses. There wasn't anybody named Pharaoh. There really was no incident of the Jews being taken into captivity or the punishment that they went through and then being saved and taken away from that. It's just something that somebody made up. And they even say it was made up probably during the Babylonian exile, which did happen. This is on record. And when they came back from it, they just put all that together to kind of, you know, encourage the troops and stuff like that. This is actually in books that I've read about the scholars of the Old Testament. So the Prophet ﷺ only repeats what he hears. The angel Jibril is a representative of Allah and tells him to recite. He recites, and what he hears he recites, and the people recite the same thing, and we've been doing that mouth to ear and ear to mouth ever since. In the Quran, there's a statement, a strange statement, that was actually discovered by a non-Muslim in the early 70s. He was one of the world's top surgeons and lecturers, scientists from France, Dr. Maurice Bucaille. He was asked to go to Cairo, Egypt, to examine the corpse of a mummy. They wanted to do some forensic work on it to get some information and discover whatever they could from this mummy. He was amazed because he said, we can prove that this person died of drowning. He was asphyxiated, meaning that his lungs filled with water, and he died from this. He said, therefore, I have to conclude from this and the time period, this fits exactly the story of the Bible. This was Pharaoh of the time of Moses. And he was so amazed. He was shocked. But do you know what happened? The people in Cairo, happened to be Muslims of course, they said, it's no big deal. We already know that. He said, yes, but we've discovered him. And they said, well, we know that too. He said, no, I mean, this is his body. And it's here. And they said, well, we know because it's in the Quran. He said, the what? So he gets introduced to a subject called the Arabic language. He began to study it until he could understand the Arabic well enough to actually translate for himself every single word. Because he wanted to know, what is this book? Because it says in it that Allah is going to punish Pharaoh in a very specific way. That he is going to drown him, but he's going to preserve his body as a sign. And sure enough, he's a sign for all to see today, because that body has been put on tour and taken all around the world to show this Pharaoh. If you haven't seen it, I have. I saw it when it was on exhibition in Chicago. Happened to be up there, went to the museum and saw it. They've toured this body around the world and said, most likely, this could be Moses. Not Moses himself, but the Pharaoh of Moses' time. There he is. Amazing. Huh? But that's not where it ends. Dr. Bucaille continued his study until he managed to go through the disciplines of geology and geography, astronomy, embryology, and prove without a shadow of a doubt that every single reference in the Quran to science is absolutely, emphatically proven to be correct. It was his book that was first published in the French language that really stood the science people up on their ear. It was translated then into the English language, and it was called in English, the Bible, the Quran, and Science. He wrote another book, The Origin of Man, because it became evident, without any doubt, what Allah had said in the Quran proves there is a God, a creation, and human beings did not come from monkeys.